No.
I'd love to.
What a nut. Today we'll.
Rob him blind. You wouldn't know what happened.
Today we'll. All questions will be sent to Ozzy today. So all right. So basically today we're going to be discussing all the lanings for all the Yom Tovim Haftarahs. So the listing, where do they get it from? So this is, today's Gemara is a lot where halacha. Let's see. So today is Daf Lamed Aleph, Maseches Megillah. Looks like tomorrow is the last blot. I'm not even sure what comes next. Is it Chagiga? I didn't even know. My cousin, I didn't even remember. Okay, fine. I have to take a look. Zok to Gemara. So Tana Rabbanan, right? We did the Mishnah yesterday. We just did the Mishnah yesterday, which described basically all of the different lanings of where we read. But now the Gemara is actually going to go through step by step for the Mishnah. So if you missed the Mishnah, actually the Gemara is going to bring up. So Tana Rabbanan. Let's start off with the first holiday of the Shalosh Regalim of the holiday of Passover. And away we go. Tana Rabbanan. The Pesach Korin, the Parshas Moados. So we mentioned that in Pesach we read from the Parsha Moados found in Vayikra, Umaftirin, the Pesach Gilgal. So then we read the Haftarahs of Pesach Gilgal, Va'ina, the Ikatrei Yomei, and now that there are 2 days in Chutz La'aretz on Pesach, the beginning, Yomei Kama Pesach Gilgal, U'machar Pesach El Yeshio. So the first day the Haftarah is Pesach Gilgal, and the next day is Pesach Yeshio. V'shai Masa Pesach, and the other days are Pesach, Malakit v'kar minyanah shel Pesach. Then they go ahead and they read different inyanim of Pesach. And Mahi, so Amar Rav Papa. So Rav Papa gives one mnemonics way to remember. Amar Rav Papa, Mapu, and the Mem stands for Mishku. And Mishku is the first word of the first day, right? Which is a Parshas Bo, right? I think Shvi over there, right? So it says in Kesef Tilva it was the Aleph. Right, the Pei is Psalacha, and the Vav is from Vayidaber, right, which in the beginning of which is found in Bamidbar. And Simon, and Simon, Simon. Yom Tov Achron Shel Pesach, and the last Yom Tov Pesach Karin Vayibishach, Umaftirin Vayidaber David. Right, and we read from Ulamachar, and then on the next day, i.e. the 8th day, Kol HaBechor. They read Kol HaBechor Umaftirin Oid Hayom, and then the Haftarah is Oid Hayom. And Amar Abaye Va'ina nowadays Nahug Alma Lemikri. So nowadays, so what do they read? Meshach Torah Kadesh Bekaspa Psal B'Midbara Shlach Buchra. So there's also a way in the mnemonics to wait all 8 days. So Meshach comes from Mishku. Right, and Torah, it comes from is Shor, right, and Kaddish is Kaddish l'kol b'chor, and the Kasva is in Kasva Tilva, right, it's like a little code, right, and Psal is Psal l'cha, and Bamidbara is Bamidbar Sinai, right, Pesacheni, and Shlach is from B'Shalach, and Buchra is Kol B'chor. So that is the way to go ahead and remember the right, the lanings with this sort of sentence, right? So it's a Meshach Torah to go ahead and write the shore. So this this is the way to remember it. And so that was Pesach. Now moving on, Shavuos.
On Shabbos we always start with Salacha and keep this up.
So on Shabbos, right? So we'll get to Gemara later on. We'll get to Chol Moed. What we read on Shabbos during the week, right?
Okay.
So Batzeres.
So we switch up the parshas from
the order. Yeah. Batzeres on Shavuos, Shiva Shavuos, and on Shavuos we read the Shiva Shavuos Maftirim beChavakuk. And Acherim Oimrim beChodesh Hashlishi Maftirim beMerkava. Now they say no, we don't read that. We read the Chodesh Hashlishi and with the Haftarah is Merkava. But nowadays there are 2 days of there are 2 days of Shavuos. We do that, but we do opposite. In other words, we read Chodesh Hashlishi first, right? And then we do Shiva Shavuos. Fine. The Rosh Hashanah, the Chodesh Hashvi Umaftirin Haben Yakeli Afrai. So then on Rosh Hashanah we read Chodesh Hashvi and we read Haben Yakeli Afrai. V'Yeshem some say Hashem Pagad Sarah Umaftirin Bechana. But now there are 2 days of Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kama Ki Yeshayim. The first day we do like the Yeshayim of Hashem Pagad Sarah, and after is Bechana. Well, the Machar, and the next day, Velakim Nisas Avram, and Hashem tested Avram after Haben Yakir. Yom Kippurim, Karin Achrimos, we read Achrimos after Kikom Aram Venisa, and that's Mincha. And Yom Kippur Mincha, Karin Barayis. We read the parsha of Barayis. Maftir b'Yaina, and the Haftar is Maftir Yom. And I'm Rabbi Yechon Kol Makom Shad Amitzi Gevura Shel Kadosh Baruch Hu. Any place that is mentioned the Gevura of Kadosh Baruch Hu. Atamitzi Aniosov Anava says so. Right. So in any place that you mention the Gevura, the greatness of Kadosh Baruch Hu, you also see his humility. And Davar Zeh Kasav B'Torah, B'Shunem B'Navim, Meshulash B'Ksuvim. And some of this is found, is written initially in the Torah, then it's repeated in the Navim, and it's written the third time in Ksuvim.
This is put in Vayitain Lefan. We said this.
Oh, Vayitain. Okay, right. What's the Shabbos? Right. So it says, Kasav B'Torah, it says, Pasuk says, Ki Hashem Akeichem Hu Elokei HaElokim, Adonim, right? It says he's the God of all gods. He's the supreme, and he's the master of all. Right? Then he does judgment for judgment to orphans and widows. So in other words, he's the humility. And Shonim B'Ksuvim, it's repeated in the Navim. He says, right? He's all the way up. Because in Basra, it says over there, right? He looks out for those who are lowly and desolate. Meshulash B'Ksuvim is written a third time. In Ksuvim it says the Chsiv Asula Roikev Arabais Beishema, right? The chariots, and he rides up in the upper spheres. B'Ksiv Basra Avi Yisayim V'Dayin Amaros, right? He's the father of orphans and the judge of widows. Fine. So now we find ourselves right through Yom Kippurim. Yom Tov Arishon Shachag. Now we're on to Sukkot. So Yom Tov Arishon Shachag, Korim Parshas Moados, Shabbatos Koran. We read the Parsha Moados, which is found in Vayikra. Umaftirin Hina Yom Ba LaShem. Va'ina Dikashay Yomei. But now that there are 2 days, Lamachar Mikra. Now 2 days, so they go ahead and they read. So they also read it again. Hakanai Makarina. So the next day they also read the same parsha, and the question of so they read the same day, the same kriya the first 2 days, right? And afturimai, what's after? So maftirin veikalu el hamelach shlomo, and the after is veikalu el hamelach shlomo. Ushar kol yimai sachag karim bekarbanos sachag. Nowadays at the holiday we read the karbanos of the holiday. A Yom Tov Achron, and on the last day of Sukkot, right? Korin Kol B'chor, we read Kol B'chor, because in there it says mitzvahs v'chukim v'b'chor. Over there it mentions first mitzvahs and then chukim and then b'chor. So those in Yanim are mentioned in the parsha, and that is read on the last day, i.e., which we know as Shmini Atzeres u'maftirin v'ayik close Shlomo, and the haftar is over there from Kavches, which is in Malach. And Lamachar, and the next day, i.e., there's 2 days which we know as Simchas Torah. Lamachar, Korin Zayis HaBracha, we read Zayis HaBracha, Umaftirin, and with the Haftarah is Vayamot Shlomo, and the Haftarah is Vayamot Shlomo. Now, if you go ahead and you Tosfos over here, right? If you look at Tosfos over here, right? Just real quick, it says Lamachar Korin Zayis HaBracha, Maftirin Vayamot Shlomo, V'yesh Mikama Shenogul LaHaftir Vayid Achrei Moshe, right? Right. And those is a minhag to the custom to go ahead and basically start from Yoshua. Right. It's a mistake to do it. Sharav Haigom, right? So he can take Lamar Moshe, right? Which is our minhag today.
That's what we do, right?
Which I mean this day, right? So some want to say that is really only done if you read the Zayis HaBracha. In other words, if you read the entire Torah every year. But it doesn't make sense to start, if you're not finishing the Torah every year to read Zos HaBracha, because then it's not really a continuation, right? That's the reason why we do this, because we read the Torah every year, and therefore it's a continuation. You finish the Torah, now you start with Nevi'im, because it's a continuation. And Amrav Huna Amrav Shabbos Shechal Yeis B'chol Shemoed Bein B'Pesach Bein B'Sukkos, whether it's Pesach or Sukkos, Mika Karinan, Re'ata. So they read over there from Re'ata. So they read over there, which is found in Shmos, Re'ata, in Afturei, and what's after? So Pesach, Chatzamos, Aviyeshos, over there they read dry, the parsha of the dry bones, right? I guess when they found them all killed, the sukkos b'yom ba'gog, right? And sukkos they read b'yom ba'gog. That's the haftarah from sukkos, and fine. But Chanukah. Now moving on to Chanukah, right? We're done with the Shlosh Regalim. Now we get to Chanukah. What do we read then? Chanukah Nesim. We read Nesim. Umaftirin b'neiros the Zechariah, right? And the haftarah is when there's on Shabbos we read from the neiros Zechariah. And if there's 2 Shabbos and that fall out on Chanukah, i.e. day 1 and day 8, Kamaisa b'neiros the Zechariah, President Zechariah and Basraisa. The second Shabbos they read b'neiros Shlomo, and then they read that haftarah. But Purim, on Purim they read Vayavu Amalek. All right, and there is no haftarah. Rosh Chodashim and Rosh Chodesh, Rosh Chadshechem. They read from Rosh Chadshechem and Rosh Chodesh Shechali Yes b'Shabbos. If there's Rosh Chodesh on Shabbos, then that's the kriya umaftirin v'haya amidachash b'chadsha. So it says over there in Yeshayahu. V'chali Yes b'achal b'Shabbos. If it falls out if Rosh Chodesh falls out on Sunday, right? Then the day before Ayi Shabbos, the haftarah is by Yonasan Machar Chodesh. Right? Then they read the haftarah of Machar Chodesh. And Amar Rav Huna says Rav Huna Rosh. Turn the page. Rosh Chodesh Av Shechal Yais b'Shabbos. So now Rosh Chodesh Av, right? We're talking the 9 days right before Tisha B'av, right? So at the beginning of the 9 days, Rosh Chodesh Av Shechal Yais b'Shabbos. Maftirin Chadshechem Uadechem Sana Nafshi Hayu Alai L'Tarech. So you read this is the haftarah. This is the haftarah that we read during the beginning of the 9 days. So the shot of the pasuk is right. My soul hates, and then also to me they are a burden. So my haviyah the Torah. What does it mean? This double lashon, right? The soul hates, right, and also they're a burden to me. So I'm Kodesh Baruch Lo Dayan Lam Yisa Shechaitin Lefanai. Not only that Bnei so they sin towards me. But not only that, but I have to go ahead and figure out what punishment to give them. So it's like a double whammy. And Batisha B'av. Gufe, Tisha B'av itself, my maftiros haftaras, Amarav, Eicha Haisa Lezaina, you read Eicha Haisa Lezaina, Mikra Mai. So what do they read? Satanya, Acher Maimrim, Vimlo Tishmuli, some say you know the Tishmuli, Rav Natsan, Bar Yosef Amar, Ad Ona Yeratsuni Am, right? Hazeh, right? How long are they going to go ahead and provoke me? V'yeshayim, some say Ad Moshe Leida Haru Azos, right? How long does Eidah all 3 circumstances of Bnei Yisrael basically rebelling or sinning to HaKadosh Baruch Hu? However, Amar Abaye Ha'ina. However, nowadays on Tisha B'av, no B'alma Lemikre Kisali Banim. We read Kisali Banim Umaftirin Asof Asifa. Right. So we read over there Asof Asife. Right. So that is the haftarah from there. So I believe most of this what we just read is our halach lamaisa. As you can correct me if I'm wrong.
Pretty good.
Yeah, pretty good. Pretty good. The separation, I think much.
Captured what we did.
Yes, very good. But Mamados, now we said Mamados. We said when they used to bring their karbanos, right? No korban can be brought without an owner, right? So they used to have korban sibor that was brought on behalf of the sibor. So you can't really bring on behalf of millions of people. So they would have representatives come and they would be basically the owners, quote unquote, the owners of the korban tamid, right? And those people, when they were there, they'd also read the Torah. They would read the Mamados, right? So Mamados, they read the Ma'aser Bereishis. They would read Ma'aser Bereishis. So Manahari Mili. So where do we know Ma'aser Bereishis?
Just to go back, Rosh Chodesh Av Shechal Yos b'Shabbos.
Right.
The Tosfos points out that we don't read that.
This we don't do.
I didn't go through the entire Tosfos. I didn't see the what's coming. Right.
No,
Yeah.
And that's true. We don't do that.
All right.
We don't read that one.
Okay.
Because we read the one from Chicago.
Tosos knows. Right. Chodesh Av is Shabbos. The next
Right.
Shabbos is before Tisha B'av, and that's what we
That's the one that's right. So Manahari Mili. So Amar Le. So how do you know the Ma'aser Bereishis? Manahari Mili. If it wasn't for the Ma'ados, right? Because if it wasn't for the Ma'ados, the Shemayim V'Aretz would not say. And Shneimar says, right? If I didn't go ahead, if not for the days and nights, then I would not. In other words, the world would not be established. If it wasn't for the karbonos, then the world would not sustain. Right? The offerings. So it says over there. Vayomer Hashem Elokim b'ma'eda kirshena. So now the pasuk says, Hashem, how I know that I'll inherit it? Amar Avram Kodesh Baruch Hu. What was Avram saying to HaKadosh Baruch Hu? Perhaps in the future, Yisrael will sin before you. And then you can go ahead and do like you did to the Dora Mabel Dora Flaga. So how am I going to inherit the land if you're going to destroy humanity? So I'm alone. No, it won't happen. So I'm how will I know? Right? That's what the pasuk means. Some are low. So Kadosh Baruch Hu told Avraham Avinu, go ahead and take the egel, the calf, and go ahead and bring a carbon. So carbonos sustain humanity, sustains the world. So that's why my mother's read my celebration. Okay, this works well. Was the base of Mikdash? Go ahead and offer carbonos. However, there's no base of Mikdash. What's going to happen? So I'm low. I already was masakin to say the Kabbanos and calls man shekorin bahed. As long as any time that you go ahead and you read the Kabbanos, malan aleim ki'ilu makrivi lefanai korban u'mechani al kol nasei. When you go ahead and read the Karbanos, then it's kilu, you brought the carbon before me, and I've forgiven you for all your averos. Tanis brachas the close, and I've seen them close. So we read this, sort of zoomed through this yesterday, and so in fast days, right? And also brachas the close, so you read those, and then we're not mafsiking close. We're not mafsiking close. Now close is reference to the Torah, right? Which is found the first one, or the main one we'll soon see, is referring to the one found in Vayikra, I believe. Chavav, we'll say. Here we go. Right, Chavav, right? Starts right here. Right, Vimos Ishmuli, right. So there, right. So it says over there. So Menahani Mili, Amar Rabbi Chiya, Gamda, Amar Rabbi Asi, Amar Rabbi says, Ma'isa Hashem B'ni Altima. So the Musar that's given to you, you should not hate. In other words, don't break up the colors. It's not something, right? That you should go ahead and break up or not do, right? So do not hate the Muslim. Do not hate that, the clothes that will happen to those if you don't go ahead and listen. You can't stop. Why? Because if you stop, you end it there, and you make a bracha, then you're making a bracha on the peronios, right? On the bad things, you make a bracha on that. But that's the case. How do you go ahead and do it? So Tanakshu Maskil Pasuk when you start the reading, don't start exactly from the Teich or the Klalas. Rather, start a little before the Ninuk. When he finishes also Messiah Pasuk Shachrayim, don't finish up with the Klala. Read a pasuk after that. So therefore, when you make the bracha before and the bracha afterwards, you're not making a bracha al pranis. And I'm Abaye says Abaye lo shana al Klala Shabbatos Kohanim. We're only talking about the Klala Shabbatos Kohanim. About Klala Shabbatos Torah, but the Klalas that are found in Mishnah Torah. Right in Gizavo, right? So that right, Kitavo, right? Right. So the one that's found, it's right. So one over there in Gizavo, it says over there, right? Or I think right. I think actually I think my upper was this week, right? So we so over there. So the Avakos from Mishnah Torah, Paisek, there you can go ahead and start. That's not the official one. My time, what's the reason? Halablush Rabbim Amarus. In other words, the first one was Hebeloshin Rabbim, and therefore basically it was repeated that Kadosh Baruch Hu told Moshe Rabbeinu, and Moshe Rabbeinu was a direct shaliach. As actually points out, he was a shaliach to tell him the words of Kadosh Baruch Hu, cursing all of you. However, the one that's found in Mishnah Torah, Moshe being Guru Amran. So the first one was Kadosh Baruch Hu saying, Moshe just announced what Hashem said. But the other one was said Belashon Yachid. And therefore, Moshe himself, right? Right? So Moshe therefore Moshe saying himself. So therefore, it was not said Lashon Rabim mipi Gvura, and therefore it was really mipi Moshe. Therefore, it's not as serious as the first one. Levi Barbuti Havikari the Kamen Gamge Kamei de Rav Huna Baruri. So what happened? So Levi Barbuti, he read and he was in the Megam game, right? Megam game. Right, the Merutza, right? Rashi says he read it fast, right? He read it fast and low, right? Sort of like the minhag nowadays. He read it fast and low in front of Rav Huna, right? And Amar lo Achanav Sheikh, right? If he says if you want to do it like this, you can do it. But if you want, you can go ahead and stop. In other words, you don't have to go ahead and read it all together. You can stop if you like. Right. So Loishana Lekol Shabbatar Kvanim, because he was only he was reading the one from Dvarim. So he said, don't worry about these, right? Loishana Lekol Shabbatar Kvanim, but if you want, you can go ahead and stop. You don't have to go ahead and read it so fast and get it over with. You could read it normal, but you see that it was sort of read quick, which is many places the minhag nowadays to go ahead and read it quick and in a lower voice. Tanya, Rishon ben Elazar, Omer, Ezra Tikin Lam Lisash, you Karin Kloloi Shabbatar Kohanim, Kaidem Atzeres, Ushamish Natara, Kaidem Rosh Hashanah. So Ezra was talking to Yisrael, they would go ahead and read it throughout the year, and they would read the Klolos and Torah's Kohanim in Vayikra before Shavuos, and Rosh Torah, and the one of Dvarim, right, and then Kisavo will be read before Rosh Hashanah. So my time, what's the reason? In order that the year should end and the curses should end. So therefore, we do it symbolically at the end of the year. So I understand by Mishnah Torah that it should go ahead and should basically be around the time of Rosh Hashanah, and therefore it makes sense. Right, but before Shavuos, right, is that Rosh Hashanah? So Gemara says, "Atzeres nami Rosh Hashanah." No, it is a Rosh Hashanah, as you learned the Tanakh. Atzeres al peiros ha'ilan, as a peiros ilan. So therefore, it is a symbolic times of when the fruits begin to grow, the fruits go on trees. So therefore, the klolos should end just like that year is end. And Tanya, Rabbi Shimon ben Elazar, im yamin lechaz kenim sasav yaldim bana. So start b'al tivna. If you have the young youth. Excuse me, let's start with if you have the elders say, tear it down, and the children say, build it up, tear it down. In other words, listen to the wise elders and don't build. The altivna and don't build, listen to the elder and not to the younger generation. Why? Because really the tearing down that the Zakanim tell you to do are really a form of building. And now which the youth say, hey, you should build this, you should do this, that's really stira. That's really a form of demolition. The similar davar, Rechav ben Shlomo. The name is Rechav ben Shlomo. I guess when he listened to the elders, it was good. But once he listened to the youth, then bad things occur. Wise is brought in. Shimon Elazar. Tanya Shimon Elazar. Yeah, that was Ezra Tiken and Shimon Elazar. Very good. Tana Rabbanan. Malkum Shabbat Sikin b'Shabbos Shachris. Sham Korim b'Mincha. So where you end off the parsha on Shachris and Shabbos, right? Then that's where you continue at Mincha, right? That makes sense. Or that's what we do right now. Ube Mincha, and that where you stop in Mincha. Sham Korin b'Sheni. That's where you start on Monday. So if you read, let's say, Rishon at Shabbos Mincha, then when it comes Monday morning, you read Sheni, right? And b'Sheni and b'Sham Korin b'Chamishi, then where you leave off on Monday, that's where you continue on Thursday. B'Chamishi Sham Korin b'Shabbos. Haba. So basically, you only start on Shabbos from like Revi or something like that, right? Sham Korin b'Mincha. Sham Korin the Shabbos Haba. That's the opinion of Rabbi Meir, which we do not do. And Rabbi Huda Meir, Malkum Shemasikim b'Shabbos. Wherever you finish off on Shabbos, you finish the parsha, right? Sham Karan b'Mincha v'Sheni v'Chamishi. That you read Shabbos Mincha, and you read the identical laning also on Monday, and you read the identical laning also on Thursday with Shabbos Haba, and you also begin from there on the following Shabbos. And Rabbi Meir halach is. Malkum Shemafsikim b'Shabbos Shachris Sham Korim b'Mincha v'Shabbos v'Chamishi v'Shabbos Haba. The place where you stop on Shabbos in the morning, that's where you go ahead and you begin reading on Mincha and Shabbos afternoon, Monday, Thursday, and the next Shabbos. Why don't you just say halach Rabbi Yehuda? Why do you have to go ahead and repeat it? So my answer is Meshum Davchilu, because there are some switch around the shitas of Rabbi Yehuda and Rabbi Meir, and therefore we want to be clear as to what the halach is, and therefore we just say the halach is that you always start from the same place on Mincha. Monday, Thursday, and it's not always a continuation. We'll stop here. Tomorrow, Mr. Hashem, we will go ahead and continue and finish up the Masechta. Shkoyach.